It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Tuesday, February 6th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Provi In The Media, the Practical Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Whew. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Tuesday. Hope you guys had an amazing and awesome Monday. Don't forget, we have a Q&A every single Thursday, so get those questions ready and send them to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, leave a like and comment on this video to build our community together. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is, I repay according to the good and evil people do. Yes, it's a wonderful Tuesday. I hope everyone has enjoyed your Monday. First day of the week we knocked it out of the park. So it's Tuesday now. We are just, it's already February 6th. That first week of February is already finished, guys, which is pretty crazy. Man, for me, I had to wake up super early to send someone to the airport. Remember I told you there's pastors that are here from Korea and such, and I woke up extra early. I woke up at something like 3:50 or something along that line. Early flight, a vacation flight that they're taking. So, well, not vacation, but it's a personal trip, and it was so early, even earlier than pre-dawn. Okay, but it's so interesting. It's really, really interesting because to get up at that time, I feel the urgency, if I don't wake up early, they miss their flight kind of thing, right? So, and it was when I woke up, I look at the clock, okay, I got time. I go shower, get ready, do all these things, right? And, it was just easy for me to get up. I felt the urgency. I did the things I need to do. But it's interesting because waking up for actual pre-dawn is nothing close to as easy, or I guess the right word would be, is nothing close to as urgent as waking up to send someone to the airport and not letting them miss their flight, right? It's really, really interesting. It's when you think about this, spiritual things are interesting because, when we have ups and downs, sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's easy, but, the one thing that's hard about spiritual things is we don't actually see the consequence. You know what I mean? Sometimes you may feel it, but there's a lot of times people miss pre-dawn. They don't feel any different. Actually, they feel more refreshed because they got a lot more sleep than they could have. You know what I mean? So I was just yeah, it's so interesting that when it's something very, very physical, it's easy for me to wake up. But it also just shows the importance of the importance of the body as we live in this physical world. The body is that important. We have a spirit, and the thing for us is it's so hard to feel the spirit, yet so easy to feel the body. You know what I mean? So when we think about this, it's when you have ups and downs in your faith. I was thinking about this, why it was so easy, right? But I was thinking when we have ups and downs, having an up in faith, it's easier to do things, right? And it's mainly because you're excited. You're oh, I can't wait. Oh, pre-dawn, I can't wait for pre-dawn. And you get up and you pray and you're so happy because you got up for pre-dawn. Especially for people who are doing pre-dawn for the first time, people who realize this history for the first time. It's really, really exciting. And people are so into it for the first month or first 2 months maybe, right? But the hard part is when you're not doing well. When your faith actually goes down a bit. And you don't have the same fire or that same first love that you had in the beginning. And waking up for that pre-dawn, it becomes really, I don't know, it's arduous. It's so arduous. You're oh, do I need to get up? Man, I've been up for 2 months and everything else. And even if you miss it, the interesting part is you don't really see a consequence. Some people who are super spiritual might feel the consequence of, oh, I don't feel as good. Some of it could be a placebo. I'm not sure what it is. But a lot of times we don't actually get that full consequence of not praying to God and not communicating with God. And when I thought about this, it's one of the things that makes the spiritual so difficult is that it's very, very long-term, right? It's long-term thinking, right? Because when you pray, it's communication with God. So how many times do you have to communicate with God in order for you to start getting closer to him and start feeling him? And the answer is it's different for each and every person. There's no set rule of you talk to God 25 times and then you feel closer to him, right? It's just not like that. There's no set rules for this, where each and every person, according to their sensitivity, their spirituality, it's very, very different. And when you think about this long-term thinking when it comes to the spiritual, we're not going to see the result. We're not going to feel anything that comes from like the consequences of the spiritual or the non-spiritual. Like, think about even the blessings we get from prayer. A lot of times we're setting like 40-day prayer conditions. That's over a month. That's like almost a month and a half later, right? Sometimes we set 70-day conditions. Sometimes 110-day conditions. We set these long conditions and we don't even see results right away, right? So when you think about it, the spiritual is a long-term thing. It's a relationship. It's getting close to someone, where when we look at the physical things are so short-term. And when you think about it this way, no wonder it's easy to feel the physical things, because it's so short-term, right? Someone punches you, you feel it right away. Like, it hurts. They punch you in the shoulder, like, ow, that hurts, right? But imagine like there's like Satan stabbing you with a knife in the spiritual world. The answer is you don't feel it right away. Some people don't even know they're being stabbed. Do you know what I mean? So I think, that's one of those big things. Like, it's the big conundrum when it comes to the spiritual things, because the spiritual things are such long-term things that a lot of times we don't really fully recognize the spiritual things because it's so long-term. Right? Relationships too. When do you become a best friend? How many times you have to converse? How many times you have to hang out? Well, it takes time. We just don't know the exact number, but it takes time, right? It takes consistent effort. And the short-term things are things like, I'm hungry. You take 3 bites, you're done. Like, okay, I fulfilled my hunger. So yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, wow, man, it's so easy because the consequence is right in front of your face, where spiritually, you can miss a pre-dawn and still not go to hell. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to take one pre-dawn, like, oh my gosh, you missed a pre-dawn, you're going to hell right now. It's totally not like that, right? So when we realize this, I was looking at that like, yeah, it's so interesting how it's almost like we are the spirits that are stuck in the body, and the body is so dull to the spirit, and the spirit's got to be so frustrated from what I was seeing. Like, from what I was feeling this morning, like, man, why can't I just be this like urgent when it comes to pre-dawn? But I realize it's more of the short-term and long-term, the difference between the body and the spirit. So, yeah. Oh, another interesting thing. So there is a pastor here from Korea, and it's a personal trip, but they are also like doing volleyball over there in Korea, and I was doing my podcast on Sunday, but they had like this 2.5 hour, 3 hour meeting with the leaders of the volleyball organization here in Malaysia. And I wasn't there for the whole time, so I couldn't really experience what like the conversation was, but it just seemed like everyone was really, really into it. However, after like we played volleyball, and then after volleyball, all of us went out to go eat together. And we said, oh, Pastor, would you like to pray? And this is how interesting, like, this is a big difference that I see. Like, maybe it's just me from what I know, or maybe it's just me because of what I do. But if someone says, Pastor, would you like to pray? For me, I'm just like, oh, like, why do you keep asking the pastor to pray? And then I'll volunteer someone else. Like, oh, there's another pastor who is active, right? Or here's someone else who is more spiritual than me. Why don't you get them to pray? Or I'll just say, everyone, just pray on your own. Do your personal prayers, right? It was so interesting because I was doing what I normally do, and I'm like going, hey, pastor, why don't you pray? And straight up, it's like, sure. And then they're like, who's going to translate? I was like, whoa, like that was fast. It's like you could see that it's someone that really, really likes to pray. However, when you hear the content of the prayer, I'm going to say I was shocked, because it was absolutely focused. Like, it's focused on the man of mission. Like, when I heard it, I was like, wow. And it really, really made me think of like why Korea, like why Sunstein came from Korea. Like, the people there, very different than the rest of the world. Like, I'm Korean, but I'm not Korean. You know what I mean? Like, I'm Korean by blood, but I was raised in Canada, so I'm totally like not, I don't have that same mentality and culture as a Korean person does, which, you know, has pros and cons. But man, you can see this person has their center straight. Like, their center is absolute. And when I listened to the prayer, I was like, wow. It was, yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like you know, usually you pray for food and they're like, I'm going to make it short, but obviously it was like 4 or 5 minutes. But still, the content was really like, it was so centered on God, so centered on the man of mission. I was just like, wow. And it really kind of stunned me to see how this pastor prayed. And this pastor's like way younger than me, like 10 years younger than me, right? But it was just really, really impressive. And I was kind of sitting there like, wow, you know, so like there is a lot to learn. Right? There's a lot to experience when it comes to, you know, and there's a reason why God has chosen South Korea. And there's a reason why we visit Korea a lot too. It's very, very different. And for me, I was just like, you know, I want to, it kind of like, I'm not sure if it's not like setting fire to me, but it sets fire to my mentality. Like, you know what? That's the type of prayer I want. You know what I mean? Like, it's like kind of like, whoa, that was a great prayer. Isn't it awesome when you hear a great prayer? You're like, wow, that was amazing. But for me, I was really, really impressed by it. And of course, snarky me, I would like say a little joke after like, didn't you say it was going to be a short prayer? And you know, of course, everyone has a cheap laugh from that, but I was very, very impressed, like super impressed. So like, I can't wait to see. There's another one of the pastors coming on a personal trip too, and they will be having another meeting, and I'm excited about this one too. But yeah, I'll probably give you some more information when Friday comes along, because that meeting will happen late Thursday night. So I'm excited to hear that meeting too. Either way. So yeah, it's been a very fruitful week. I've been blessed to be able to use an Airbnb. And for Chinese New Year, it's perfect. Being in like the downtown area by myself in Airbnb, it just happened to fall into my lap. So I'm going to relax, enjoy myself, and take the next 3 days of rest before the next pastor comes. I have to pick them up, and their flight comes in at 2 a.m. It's nuts, right? So I'm like going, why did you choose this flight? So it's like, they're going to come at 2. They're not gonna come out till 3 a.m. And then we're gonna drive for another hour, which is gonna be 4 a.m. Nothing's open, and you know, everyone's gonna rest and stuff like that too. But yeah, I'm I'm actually very excited about it. Playing volleyball and also listening to the education and the word that this pastor's. I'm not sure if this person's a pastor or not. I don't know if they're a pastor, but I do believe that they're one of the heads of volleyball. But I'm very, very excited about this. One funny thing is when I talked about road rage the other day, like, you know, talk about how character comes out during road rage. Some people are giving their experiences of road rage, and I find it hilarious because if it's anything about road rage, everyone has a relatable experience. Like Chris from New Zealand was straight up like, oh, I get so angry when there's like a person who's in like a 50 zone, but they're only driving 20. And it feels like this person's looking back at me and laughing kind of thing, right? And I'm like, dude, I've had the exact same feeling. Like having that road, like, you know, when you're like, come on, move faster. What are you doing? Come, and you like kind of throw your hands in the air because it's so slow. And, you know, I kind of look at that like, this guy must be so old, or this must be an Asian woman. Sorry, I had to go into a deep stereotype right there, but yeah, I'm very, very excited. I want you guys in the comments to tell me your road rage stories. I just want, you know, during this time of Chinese New Year, everyone's leaving for Chinese New Year already here in Malaysia and going back to their hometowns. And it's going to be like 7 to 8 hours in traffic for a ton of people. But I want to read your road rage stories, or if not, you can send me an audio of your road rage stories because I just find them hilarious, right? They're just hilarious. Like everyone has very, very similar experiences. And I was just thinking to myself, like, man, it's so funny that, we get so angry and we catch ourselves in that situation. And all you can do is just laugh at yourself, right? That's all you can really do is just kind of laugh at what you just did or how you must look to other people. And sometimes I would have people cut me off. I'd be so angry. I'd pull up to them. And then it would be like this really old lady, like a sweet old lady. And you just kind of look. And then all you can do is just feel bad and wave at them and say hi. And then you kind of move on and just feel embarrassed and stuff like that too. So, man, yeah, road rage. I'm not sure why God made traffic. I'm not sure why God made traffic jams. I'm not sure why God made bad drivers, right? I hope, if anything, that bad drivers are not predestined. Please, God, let there not be, let them not be those angels that drive poorly just to test people's hearts and their mindsets, because I think some of us would be royally failing at this point when it comes to road rage. And for those of you guys, for Chinese New Year, especially in Malaysia, man, it's going to be hell this week. It really is. Like, I already felt it picking up since Saturday, and now it's just going to get worse and worse until it hits this Saturday too, because Chinese New Year is on Saturday. Thursday, Friday is going to be ridiculous. So I'm just hoping that God has mercy on all of us who are going to have a lot of road rage over this the driving week. All right, so yeah, there's a lot of different things that I've been thinking about, but yeah, very, very grateful and thankful for everyone here. I'm thankful that I'm able to do this podcast over here also. Very, very interesting poll that's come out, right? I talked about this yesterday. Which situation do you thrive in better, right? Is it when you're procrastinating, you have a small amount of time, or is it when you have way more time than you need? And like, which one's more for you? Which one do you thrive in? When you have less time or when you have more time? For myself, I would say that I've made my body used to procrastinating, like doing things at the very end. And I would say only until I hit about 40, then I'm relaxing. I'm like, no, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to use the time that I have. So far we have like 30 people that have voted and 62% that say that they thrive better in a short time period with a timeline, which I do think is probably one of the reasons why our faith probably takes a hit every once in a while. Because imagine it's like, whatever the conditions that we set, we're going to put everything in at the very, very end. You know what country I was really impressed with, though? I would say two countries I'm very impressed with that I've seen. I've seen two countries that I've been to over the last couple months. Now, number one is I'm very, very impressed with Taiwan when it comes to not like using their time wisely. Like, when I was in Taiwan in like November to December, I was so impressed because people were already presenting what they're going to do. Like each department was presenting what they're going to do for the entire year, like in the first week of January, which means they were spending the entire month of December working on their entire schedule for what's going to happen in 2024. And when I looked at that, I was like, wow, what a great use of time. Like, what an amazing use of time, right? Now, another country that I know that does really well, I'm here in Malaysia. And whenever Malaysia has these events, like there's dance, talent show, all these different things going on, man, like Malaysia, they prepare like 2 months in advance. Tell me how crazy that is. Like, I'm not sure about any other countries, but from the ones that I know, those two stick out really well. I'm not surprised if Japan is like that too, because I know Japan is super organized also. But when I saw with my own eyes, it was Taiwan and those departments preparing to show their churches or HQ, whatever it is, what they're going to do for the entire year, and they have everything planned out. Like how many major events we're going to have, how much this, how much that, the money that they're going to spend and stuff like that too. So I found that to be incredibly impressive because I think that's really hard to plan for the entire year. And Malaysia, when it comes to the talent events, they're like 2 months in advance. I think some of them were even more than 2 months, like 2.5 months. They're already preparing for Christmas. I was like, wow. And I find that incredibly impressive. And the overall work, what I'm going to say is the overall work that gets done over a long period of time rather than procrastinating and doing the last week, the quality of work can be so much better than procrastination. Like, I'm pretty sure about this, right? Because, the more time you have, and if you use it really wisely, you can do things in such a better way. So, those are like two countries that I've seen that are very, very impressive when it comes to the usage of time and preparation. I'm not sure what you guys think. Let me know in the comments what you guys do for your churches. How long do you take to prepare for these big events? How long do you guys even have like the yearly program that you show like your churches or HQ that you're going to do for this year? What are the major events we're going to do and stuff like that? Or are you just planning the events as you go along kind of thing? So yeah, I find that very, very impressive, right? But either way, so that poll is up. Hope you guys really enjoy that too, okay? So yeah, today we do have the practical word study right after this for segment 2. But before we get into that, let's move into the first break of the day. right, so let's get into today's word study. And of course, every Tuesday we have the practical word study. This week's message, great message. I will pay you according to the good and evil that you do, right? So two things that I really want to talk about of how to put the words of God into practice for this week. Now, one of the big things that the message did say this week was you can become closer to God as much as you know the Savior, or getting close to the Savior. So one of the big things that we're looking at here is it really depends on how close, how well do you know the Savior that allows you to get closer to Him. And I think this is a very interesting question, because I think we'd have to split what does it mean to know the one that God sent. I think there's two parts to this. And I think number one is more physical. Physical meaning more personal. What does it mean more personal? Which means like, are you working next to Him? Are you by His side? Are you the reporter? Are you the one that contacts with Him constantly, or something along that line, right? So you have that one there, which is more personal. It's a more physical way of knowing Him. And then, of course, there is the more spiritual way of knowing Him, which is obviously through the word and prayer and stuff like that too. So I think I wanted to go over these two parts so that we can think about this very carefully. Like, what does it mean to personally know the one that God sends? Well, it probably means that you know His family, you know His nephews and nieces. You have a personal relationship with Him. You're constantly sending letters back and forth. You're reporting, or you're always next to Him because you are the main, the personal assistant or something along that line. You know His likes and dislikes. When I say likes and dislikes, it's beyond what is, known through the Word, right? You're rarely going to find something like, what is Sunseem's favorite color? You know what I mean? It's very rare. The personal stuff doesn't come out in the message very well. It's a more personal detail, but it's not something that is as pertinent. But it is something where you do get closer to Him. You feel more related, it's more relatable to know the one that God sent at this level. Right? Knowing Him personally. He knows your name. He's done lots of signs and signatures for you. He gave you a new name or whatever. There's a bunch of things, right? Now, I would say, and this might be something that we're going to talk a little bit more deeply about but I do say that this does make you and bring you closer to Him because you know Him better. Right? When you know Him personally, it absolutely does bring you closer to Him, right? And it's very interesting because a lot of people really try to vie for this position. You know what I mean? We've seen in the past where people are really pushing to get closer to Sunseem, to listen to Him, to become the person who's always next to Him, and people in the past, I've seen it where people would brag that I have this many letters. Or people would saying, oh, Sunseem called me yesterday, or Sunseem gave me a letter the other day. And, it is something where a lot of people are kind of competing for. It really is. But the one thing we have to know for certain is very, very, very few will actually be able to get to know Him like this. Very, very few. And it's not, part of it is because Sunseem's only one person and he can't talk to tens of thousands of people at that close proximity and level, right? There's one reason. And another reason is most people probably couldn't handle Sunseem's lifestyle, right? You just probably couldn't. Sunseem's lifestyle is so different than everyone else. To follow him, you guys have done it before. You go to Warming, don't you see him prune for 3 to 4 hours, play soccer for 4 to 5 hours, then preach for another 2 to 3 hours. It's just they're so his lifestyle is very unique. And I'm going to be someone who's going to be pretty much, I admit it, I can't handle it. I know that is not my that's not my realm. That's not the seat that I should be in, right? I would see myself more in a position of going before him, preparing people by preaching and lecturing and all these other different things. And then Sunstein would come and then he would start doing other, like, that's what I see my position a lot more than kind of being side by side. I'd be such a wreck. I would be. Because I would want to get around and do something. I wouldn't want to play soccer for 4 to 5 hours, right? I really do value my freedom, the ability to get up and go and move and stuff like that too. So, but that is something, like I said, those are two of the reasons why the vast majority of people will never get this, not even an opportunity, right? So it's like even the people that are living at the same time as the man of mission, even between us, we have very, very few chances, opportunities, and people are just happy, right? We're just happy if he looks at us. We're happy if we're introduced to him, and that's fine, right? And of course, like I said, the more you know him at that personal level, the closer you get to him, and I absolutely agree that you do get closer to him, but I would say so few would actually be able to get into that position. Now, the second one is the one that everyone can do. And this is the one that is kind of like we talked about the purpose of creation. The spiritual purpose of creation is what everyone does. Everyone has to do that one no matter what. And then the vast majority will do the physical purpose of creation on top of that too, right? So when the spirit, getting to know the Lord, getting to know the man of mission spiritually, and this happens through word and prayer. And this is obviously the most important one because it has to do with the most important information. It is the words of God, how we should live, how to gain salvation, right? How to live our life, how to resolve our problems. It's all here, and that's the most important part that matters more than anything else. It is. Right? And this is, most people should be fulfilling this one here to get closer to the one that God sends. Right? Not everyone can personally know Sunstein, but everyone can know him deeply through the word. Because even in the word, there are personal things in there. In the word contains the secrets to heaven. In the word contains what he does in his daily life. In the word, Sunstein gives us stories about his life, his realizations from it. In the word, all the stories between him and God and how he received the word, they all come out. It's all there. And this is going to be like the keys to the kingdom of heaven. That's what it is, right? Like, when people say to me, how do I get to know Sunstein the best, right? And I'm like, straight up is like the word. You can try your best to try close to him, but if you can't even speak Korean, good luck, right? So it already cuts the people, like it cuts more than half the people because, they can't speak Korean and stuff like that too, right? And if you're not already living that type of lifestyle, like in your church right now, there's no way you can go follow Sunstein for a week. Maybe you'll last a week, maybe, right? But it's all through the word. Everything is contained there for us to reach the next level of relationship. It's all there, right? It's a long-term thing. Like I was talking about the spiritual and the physical. The spiritual relationship takes a long time, where you're constantly listening to the word. You're getting used to the vocabulary that is used in the word, like rapture and resurrection. And the spiritual words that are used in a sermon is not regular words we use in everyday life, and we need to get used to it, right? And then after we get used to it, we start to understand, oh, this is what he's talking about. But then we have to start putting those things into action and stuff too. Right? And that's what it's going to take for us to reach another level. So we have to listen to the words, believe those words, put them into action. And this is when we're going to be able to draw that much closer to the Lord, right? So the word becomes the first thing. And the word is what God is saying to us, right? Now, in order for us to complete the communication, it requires us to do something where we have to communicate back. And this is where prayer comes in. And when we communicate back to God, this is where we start to have that, like the inspiration, the feelings, and the connection, right? And we don't feel as much as we should. A lot of times it's because we just don't have that connection. And a lot of times it's because we just don't pray that much. And without that connection, we feel really far away from God and the Lord. So prayer is the thing that draws us closer to God. Prayer is communication. Communication is what makes us get closer to each other, right? So for me, when I meet someone in like a brand new person in Malaysia, the more and more time I spend with them, the more I get to understand who they truly are, right? And this is what happens. The more you communicate, the more we feel, the more it makes if you really miss someone, you're not going to, you're just going to have hope that maybe one day I'll meet them. But that hope remains empty as long as it doesn't come into reality, right? But prayer is what actually draws you closer, and it makes you feel God in that way, right? You know that feeling when you really miss someone and you want to see them, and then actually seeing them in person, two completely different things, right? And prayer is what kind of brings things into reality. Because prayer, what does it do? Prayer, when we get into prayer, it connects our soul with God. And when our soul connects with God, we feel. We are able to be inspired, receive a ton of grace, right? That's what we need. In order for us to connect, we need to feel it. How do we feel it? It's through our prayers, right? So those are the two things that I would say, this is what it means to get to know, to come closer to the Lord is, 1 second. The point I was making is, you become close to the Savior as much as you know him, right? And that the question was, how well do you know the Savior? Well, what does it mean to know? There are two different ways to know. One is personally and one is spiritually, right? The second point that I really want to talk about when it comes to the Sunday message, I like this point too. And the second point here is about when Susie talked about getting crazy about something. When we get crazy about the Lord, right? Hey, let's get crazy about the Lord. Just like Sunseam gets crazy about rocks, crazy about trees, crazy about development, crazy about feng shui, crazy about, what's that called? Geomancing, right? When you look at the layout of the land, he gets crazy about lecturing, crazy about evangelism, so many things he's crazy about, right? And one thing that I think that we do tend to not do well is whenever we start to get crazy about something, we kind of make it so broad that we don't know where to start, or it feels way too big. So my example is, Sunseam doesn't get crazy about 20 things at the same time. He only gets crazy about one thing. When he gets crazy about rocks, for 2 months, the Sunday message is just about rocks. That's it. Nothing else. Rocks, rocks, rocks. Every Sunday message. Then all of a sudden he gets crazy about trees. Just trees and trees, nothing else but trees. And then about soccer. And then about volleyball. Then about this. Then about that. But he does an absolute deep dive and focus on one thing. He takes one thing and just runs it dry, right? And when we hear we need to get crazy about faith, right? When we hear we need to get crazy about faith, don't go all out and try to do everything. But just like how Sunseam does it, go crazy about one thing. Focus on that one thing. Get crazy about one thing and then make it work. I told you guys before, we would have a Bible reading contest in New York when I was head leading there. Man, the guys would just be in competition mode, and we would be so focused that every waking, whenever we're resting, whenever we have time, we are all reading our Bibles. You know what I mean? And the person who came first, read the entire Bible in 5 weeks. It was ridiculous, right? And he was the newest guy too. But we were crazy about it for 2 months, right? When it comes to, focus on one thing, what else? Focus on prayer. Some people just go crazy about prayer. When I went crazy in prayer, 40 days, 7 hours a day. Or when it's evangelism, go out evangelizing for 40 days straight, or whatever it is. Or cleaning, right? Some people out there can't go evangelize, but at least they can come on Saturday and just clean like crazy, right? Right now in Chinese New Year over here in Malaysia, because this week everyone's leaving, on the weekend, everyone's doing a deep dive clean of the entire church. Right? Those of you guys into praise, go crazy about praise. Go crazy about dance. Go crazy about reading the word. Go crazy about counseling. Go crazy about education or helping people, whatever it is. Don't try to go out and try to be crazy about everything. But instead, just start focusing on one thing that you can get crazy about. And make it something easy that you really, really like. Some people really like reading. I know people that read a book a week. And what I would tell you guys is, if you can read a book a week, do the same with the Bible. Read the book of Matthew in the week. Or you probably could read even the entire New Testament in the first 3 days when you start reading. If people who are really into reading, go crazy, right? And this is when you reach these unimaginable levels and you reach unimaginable success, right? So that is something that I thought would be very, very interesting. And I think it's something that we can really, that it'll be more practical than just trying to do everything in a crazy way, but focus just on one thing. Okay, so those are the kind of the two things that I really wanted to talk about when it came to today's practical word study, and I hope that you guys can really understand it much better and do it more, and then go deeper into the word and put it into practice for this week. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is this week's practical word study. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. And before we get to Provi In The Media, I think there's two articles we'll go over. Let's get into the second break of the day.
Turn the lights down low, 'cause we don't even have to go outside no more. Where the rain is pouring and it's thundering outside. When your love goes cold, even if you feel like you're all by yourself, I'm with you always. I'm not leaving by your side. Rain or shine, I don't mind, 'cause I will always find you. Sometimes I wanna hide, but you will always find me. So let's meet in the middle. So let's meet in the middle. Yesterday is gone, look at what we made. There's some more to go, don't let your love fade. You're always in my heart, always within reach. Stormy skies are clearing, stormy hearts are calming. Keep going like you tell us, until the end you teach us. Change yourself and make yourself great every day. If you rise above your problems, then you'll change your fate. But I don't gotta worry, 'cause I'll never be late. Rain or shine, I don't mind, 'cause I will always find you. Sometimes I wanna hide, but you will always find me. So let's meet in the middle. So let's meet in the middle. Rain or shine, I don't mind, 'cause I will always find you. Sometimes I wanna hide, but you will always find me. So let's meet in the middle. So let's meet in the middle.
Okay, so let's get into today's final segment. And every Tuesday we have Provi In The Media. And very, very interesting. We got two articles today. One we'll talk about, we'll go over the two articles. First one is going to talk about when is Sunseem's first appeal trial. I thought it was going to be in the beginning of February, but it's actually next month. So here is the article that says that JMS Sunseem, accused of sexual assault and harassment, begins appeal trial in early March. The appeal trial for Sunseem of CGM, who was sentenced to severe punishment in the first trial on charges of sexually assaulting or molesting a female believer, will begin in March. According to the local legal community, on the 31st, the 3rd Criminal Division of Daejeon High Court will hear the first trial of the appeal against Sunseem, who was indicted on charges, in court. It's telling you the courtroom. In courtroom 231 at 4:40 p.m. on March 5th. So everyone, mark that on the calendar. That is the first appeal trial. March 5th, 4:40 p.m. in room 231. I'm not sure why it's that detailed. And during the appellate trial, the prosecution is expected to argue that the sentence handed down in the first trial was unfair because it was too light, And Sunsteam's side is expected to emphasize that the sentence in the first trial was too heavy and that the recorded files used as evidence had no evidence, or it was fake files, right? So who appealed the trial? It looks like both sides, the prosecution and the defense. So the prosecution are upset that it was only 23 years, and then defense, which is our side, is saying that it was way too heavy, especially because the file itself was fake, right? So that's the first... that is the first article that came out. Second one is a very, very interesting one. I was not expecting this, and you guys will be kind of shocked by what kind of contents this have. Okay, so listen to this. 60-year-old sentenced to prison for fraud in building a nursing hospital by impersonating a high-ranking CGM executive. Tell me that's crazy, guys. You know that it means that we're getting much bigger. Right? So it said, a man in his 60s who impersonated a high-ranking executive of CGM stole 2 billion won in investment money by pretending to establish a nursing hospital for a medical corporation in Daejeon, was sentenced to prison in the first trial. The court that heard the case for Sunsteam's case had a high-ranking church member appear as a witness and ruled that this 60-year-old person was not it was not a project that was promoted by CGM, right? So the Daejeon District Court Criminal Division 12, which is the same judge that did Sunsteam's trial, sentenced this person who is 63 years old, handed over to trial on fraud charges to 6 years in prison. So this it doesn't say the person's name, is accused of misrepresenting himself as a chairman of a medical corporation promoted by CGM and receiving and stealing investment funds by pretending to open a new 800-bed nursing hospital in this area in Daejeon. And this person who went to jail met the victim at his office in November 2020, deceived him by saying that he would be able to execute 70 billion won in trust once the medical corporation was approved, and until then received investment money in the name of administrative expenses, right? So this person was suspected of receiving and embezzling 2.237 billion won 34 times, which is quite crazy, starting with the 20 million won remittance. And the victim in November 2020 was a victim from November until June. For 2 years, November 2020 to June 2022. And it's including the cost of purchasing land for a nursing hospital, the cost of artwork within the hospital. And in order to deceive the victim, this person showed a false business plan for a nursing hospital and an agreement to sell investment shares, and also pretended that when the hospital was open, he would also be given the right to operate an indirect supplier company that would pay for all medical equipment. And during the trial, the director in charge of CGM budget management appeared as a witness and testified that he did not know who this person was and he had never promoted the hospital project. So you kind of see how big Providence is in Korea, that people see, con artists see the opportunity to, to use the name to take a lot of money. And this is not anything surprising too, because there is a fake Providence Instagram, I believe, and they're the ones asking for donations. And we got news that this was not even a real Providence project. So these types of things are happening. As shocking as this is, but for me, it's a sign that we are growing big enough that people are, starting to use our name to con other people and such. And, these people are going to be, this person got 6 years in jail. I'm not happy about it, right? But it's something that I do think that we have to see, that it's a sign that we are growing very, very big. All right. So yeah, I was quite shocked by this too. I'm not sure about you guys, but either way, that's just what I saw. All right. So yeah, that is today's Provi In The Media with those two articles. Hope it's something that you guys gained a lot from. And I'm not sure. I was checking around for articles, but as you can see, Sunsteam's trial doesn't start even till next month, March 5th. So mark that on your calendar once again. But I hope that you guys will really, really enjoy your Tuesday. Have an amazing, awesome day. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know.